Hi, Danny.
Hi, Lewis.
Welcome to what can only be described as a podcast.
Yes, that's what this is.
Yeah, well, that's what it's going to try to be anyway.
Yep.
We called it Shouting into the Void, haven't we? Because,
Because no matter
It's all
what we
good.
say, it means nothing.
yeah, we could shout and shout and shout. I could shout into this microphone about whatever I wanted, and it means nothing.
Exactly.
But I hope somebody gains some wisdom from it.
I mean, it's if anyone's going to get wisdom from anyone, it's probably going to be Lewis. He's got some ideas in that brain of his.
I'd say what happened yesterday that I think is the cornerstone of my wisdom.
Go on then.
I went to the supermarket next to the hotel I'm staying in, because I'm filming at the minute, and so I'm staying in a hotel. And I went to the supermarket next door to get myself some tea, and there was a Freddo in the supermarket for 30p.
Okay.
Have you had this Freddo controversy in Scotland, or is this just an England thing?
Well, Freddo's used to be like 20p, but
exactly.
like we haven't seen one since. Like the prices went up. I think the Scottish government have went. The prices have gone up. They're no longer allowed in this country. I think they've just they've had a Freddo purge because of the increase in the price.
They might have done precisely that. You're right.
I would say so.
But I remember them being like 5p, 10p, whatever it was, and this one was 30p, which is extortionate for a small piece of Freddo chocolate.
Yep.
But it is also not 60p, which I was expecting. So I feel like I've got a bargain here.
So so you're disappointed that it's no longer 20p, but you're sort of okay with the fact that it's not 60p.
Precisely, yeah.
Wow.
This is what I dedicate a lot of my time to thinking about. It's like the Freddo economy.
Did you go to bed holding yourself with fear over the uncertainty? Yeah. Oh, it was 20. Now it's 30, but at least it's not 60.
I tell you, the number of sternly worded emails I've written to the CEO of Cadbury's.
Oh my god, that's.
I haven't really. Let's be completely honest. I have not done that. That would be too intense a level of bizarreness, even for me.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a weird one.
Anyway, we've decided, haven't we, you and I, that the main theme of this podcast is going to be you and I talking a load of nonsense mostly, but with the core theme of a film or a book or a TV show or a whatever.
Media. Yeah.
Yes, media. And this week we said we were going to talk about the film Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And I should have written this down, but it has got people in it, and it came out in a certain year.
I know that Alicia Vikander's in it.
Yes, the Caleb is played by Domhnall Gleeson.
Yes.
Nathan is played by Oscar Isaac, and that's pretty much the only three characters in the film.
And there's a Yoko.
Kyoko. Yeah.
Kyoko. Yep. I called her Yoko.
Mate, come on.
John Lennon as well. He's in it.
Yeah, John Lennon's in the back,
Yeah.
and then in a couple of scenes you see Ringo just sat on a bench in the background.
I don't know any more Beatles names, so I can't join in this joke.
John Lennon, Paul McCartney,
George Harrison,
Ringo Starr, and George Harrison. Yeah, see, we nailed
Yeah,
it.
there we go.
Go you,
Yeah.
man. I'm proud
This
of you.
podcast is going very well. We've
It
just
is.
named all of the Beatles.
I think we've completely nailed it. I think we should stop recording there, call it a day. Anyway, right. What do you think of the film Ex Machina?
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is I don't want. It's a bit like sort of. It's clearly an allegory for the story in Genesis. Like,
Having never read the Bible, I have no idea.
well, you're in luck. Ava is very similar to the name Eve.
Okay.
And Caleb is it's a biblical name, and it refers to the man who helped the Israelites cross the desert, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But I mean the whole structure of it, the 7 sessions with Ava, obviously represent the 7 days that God created Earth.
Okay.
So if Ava is Eve and Caleb must be Adam, then Nathan is God. The Old Testament God. Anyway, I mean he's abusive. He's narcissistic. and he's, you know, a genius at the same time, which you could argue is...
That's Old Testament God. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've never read the Bible. I've never heard this story of Genesis, apart from the very obvious stuff of like that you do in nativity plays at school and stuff.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of stuff written down about how Nathan has a god complex,
Yeah.
and about how he views himself as this sort of kingmaker, as like he's the kingmaker of Caleb up until the end of the film, when it sort of transpires that you realise he doesn't really care about Caleb or Caleb's well-being or Caleb's job, doesn't even think he's a particularly good coder.
Yeah.
And then I even have one saying about like why did Nathan even make Ava? Why did he bother? Was he curious? Did he just want to? Did he want a friend or a child or a...
I mean, I got the impression that because he's so successful and so rich and so smart and so like bored, he just spends his time like drinking most of the time. He gets drunk by himself. Obviously he's got the AI with him, Kyoko, but you couldn't really, could you argue that that's a real person? Well, that's the whole point of the film, I suppose.
Well, I have a lot of notes about Kyoko, because I think Kyoko is a fascinating character, in that ostensibly the point of Caleb coming and meeting Ava is to find out whether she has true sentience or not.
Yep.
But of course, this isn't the point. The point is to see whether Ava would try to escape.
Yep.
But the point of the film is to try to make you question whether Ava is truly a sentient being or not. And I think, interestingly, that yes, Ava is. Unquestionably, I think Ava is a sentient being. She has self-awareness, and that's why she can make jokes and do future planning and stuff like that. She has a concept of her own mind independently of what she is, if that makes sense. In the same way that you and I have an idea of, I am just like a body that runs around the earth, as well as I know that I am also Lewis Brindley.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
But Kyoko also displays this sentience right at the end when Caleb is in Nathan's like bedroom suite type thing, and she is on like the bed or whatever it is, and he looks in the wardrobe and he discovers all these other androids.
Yep.
And he's thinking, oh my god, like this is really, really messed up. And then Kyoko like sees that he's done this, and then peels off her skin to reveal that she is also an android.
Yep. And
I think that displays the sentience of her having a concept of her own mind and a concept of his mind as well.
So you think Kyoko's sentient?
I think she is, yeah, because I think the entire point of the film is it actually possible to create sentience and to have this godlike ability to create sentience and create a living being without to do it in a garage, basically.
Yeah.
I think he did it with Kyoko, and everything that he did to improve Kyoko to make her into Ava or any of the beings, androids, robots, whatever they might be, anything in between Kyoko and Ava was sort of pointless. But then that raises the question, is Kyoko his first sentient robot? Because you see all those CCTV tapes of one of the robots smashing the glass and saying, why won't you let me out? Let me out.
Exactly.
And that's a very sort of sentient thing to think, to have a concept, as I say, of your own mind, and to have a concept of where you are, and to know that something's wrong.
Yep. I mean, isn't it possible that Nathan programmed Ava to appear sentient? And
it is possible. Yeah.
I mean, isn't it possible that he wanted her to escape? Because see, when she stabs him, he doesn't go, "Oh no, I'm dying." He says I think he exactly says "fucking unreal," and I think it looks as if, in some small way, he's exhilarated by what he's experiencing, and and see when she leaves, and she goes out and she goes to the place presumably to people watch, because she said that to Caleb in one of the sessions. Doesn't she need to charge herself?
I was thinking the same thing. How far can she reasonably get?
Yeah, and maybe she knows that. Maybe that is her end goal, to people watch.
Die at a traffic intersection.
To people watch and then shut down. which makes it... I don't know if that's proof of her being sentient, or it really makes the whole exercise pointless.
I'd argue that it is proof of her being sentient, and not only that, it's proof of her sort of being a life form, in that, what is the point of your life? Do you know what I mean? In the sense of, like, how long is it going to take? Like, if you stop eating and stop drinking now, in 3 days' time you'll be dead.
Yeah.
But so why do you keep eating and drinking? To fulfill whatever goals you might have, to become a successful actor, a successful writer, a successful podcaster. And if Ava, I suppose the question is, if you knew that you were going to achieve everything you ever wanted tomorrow, would you still want to carry on past that?
That's a good point.
And is that the point that Ava has come to, of, well, I'm going to achieve everything I want in 3 days' time, and my battery lasts for 4 days, so what's the point in trying to charge myself?
How did you feel? Did you feel manipulated by Ava?
Yes, I think that's the masterpiece of the film.
I felt really manipulated by Ava. I was absolutely devastated when she left.
I know exactly what you mean.
She gave that cold, hard look to Caleb as the elevator shut, and I was just, oh my god, I've just died.
I know exactly what you mean. It's the fantastic thing I think about this film is the characters are all very characterful, as idiotic as it sounds. They're all very clever, and none of them make idiotic choices. Yes. They all make wise choices given the information that's available to them at the time they made the choice.
Yep.
For example, Nathan never knew that Ava would be able to escape. He never knew that Ava would try to kill him, or Kyoko for that matter. So he was wise to think, well, might as well have a go at it.
Yep.
Or whatever he was thinking. And Caleb was wise to think, well, Ava does want to run away with me, so I'll try and let her out. I'll try and take her to a traffic intersection. What is it he says? Traffic intersection and then a show.
Yeah, or something like, yeah.
And Ava, considering that's the strange thing as well, when she says her age, she says 1.
Yeah.
Which could mean any number of things.
Yeah, and she never specifies what she means by 1.
Yeah, but Ava makes wise and manipulative decisions about the things that are around her and the people that are around her and how she can influence things.
Do you not think? I think it's an interesting idea that because the writer has biased us against anyone else that isn't Caleb. Isn't it possible that Ava is actually the protagonist of the story?
I suppose so. Because if you told the story from a different angle.
Yeah, I mean, she is the strongest desire, which which is sort of central to stories anyway. It's normally the character who has the biggest goal who will follow, but then obviously if you just follow Caleb in, it just looks as if he's, I'm here to test AI. But like you said, if you switch it to Ava, then you'll see a prisoner trying to escape by any means necessary.
Yeah. Because in a lot of ways, it's if again, like you say, if you switch it to Ava, this is another thing I was thinking about, is how much of what Ava says and does is for the cameras, for Nathan.
That's true.
And then how much of what she does when the cameras are off is just for Caleb?
Yep.
Because is there any point at which she's internally reflecting on herself and her choices and her next step, her next chess move?
Do you believe that she is?
I think she sort of must be, yeah.
Well, she would if she was sentient, then yeah, she would definitely have to. But can a computer make those kind of moves without being sentient? I mean, I suppose it could if you programmed it extensively that way.
Famously, IBM's supercomputer, Watson, they got it to play chess, and it got really, really good. They got it to play loads of different games, and they got it to play Jeopardy, the American game show? Yeah. They got it to play Jeopardy, and it was really good at that too. And they got it to play Tetris, and it couldn't do it. It refused to play Tetris. In the end, it stacked all the pieces up in one vertical tower in the centre, without moving them or twisting them or anything. and then just before the game was about to say you lose, it paused the game. Because it couldn't handle the aspect of future planning, of not knowing, well, there might be one of those really good ones that's just 4 squares on top of each other.
Wow.
That might be coming down next, I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting.
And so I think that while Watson, and I'm sure IBM are doing lots of great stuff,
Yeah.
but while Watson can't do future planning, we have to assume that Ava and her, what was it you said, wetware, her gel brain?
Yeah.
Was that the line that Nathan had? Said something about that, and we have to presume that that kind of hardware can do future planning. Because I'd argue that future planning is sort of the greatest thing that sentience is. Future planning and being aware of the concept of yourself, and more specifically being aware of your own mortality.
Definitely.
Because that's one of the things that people say about animals, is that a lion on the savannah doesn't know it's about to die. It just thinks, God, I feel a bit tired today, and it lies down, and then it never gets up again. It isn't aware of the concept of its own mortality because it isn't aware of its own. It isn't aware of its existence, really.
Yeah. What about?
Because it hasn't got the imagination to perceive anything that isn't.
Well,
that.
what about dogs? I mean, if you give a dog into trouble, it will show it like externally. Like if I've given my dog into trouble, and she'll put her ears down and she'll be like, oh. So she knows that she's being scolded in some way.
Yeah. But then I suppose the thing you have to consider is the dog can't understand the words you're saying, but the dog understands the tones you're using.
Yeah.
And then again, how much of that is programmed into the dog?
Or how much of it? How much of it is learned?
Yeah, but then exactly, yeah. So say you've had this puppy since you were a child, and it's seen your mother chastising you for, I don't know, eating chocolate before tea or whatever.
Happens all the time in my house, pal.
But say the dog has seen that happen. Is that a learned response from seeing you be upset for being told off?
That's an interesting point. I mean, how sophisticated would you need to be in order to make that connection?
I have no idea.
See, some part of it, I still can't get over the fact that she played everyone in the audience. And
Yeah.
I
completely know what you mean,
still
yeah.
upset. I still wake up every morning and go, fuck's sake, Ava. I mean,
Yeah, I do know
I
exactly
have
what you
cold
mean.
showers.
And you weep
Yep.
on the floor of
Yep.
your shower thinking, Ava, you betrayed
betrayed
me.
us.
You're a fictional android, but you betrayed me. What will I do with the rest of my life, knowing that Ava betrayed
Do you know,
me?
it makes it. I think it makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm sure that a lot of people were attracted to her, and I think a lot of people were in the same boat as Caleb, like the exact same boat, and I think a lot of people had this selfish attraction to her and didn't consider the fact that, wait a minute, she's been in there for all of her life. And all any of us can think about is, oh, I want to be with her. And we're selfishly putting ourselves before her so that we can, I don't know, have a robot companion. So
exactly.
it
I
makes
think,
perfect sense from her perspective that, wow, I mean, he sees a person trapped in a cage and all he wants to do is talk about himself and ask questions about me and then, try and be with me at the end of it.
Okay, here's a question then. Say Ava had been generated by Nathan, and Nathan had less of a sort of dictator complex or anything.
Yep.
Say that he had invited Ava to live in the house with him, and he'd said, like, oh, I'm just going to make a sandwich, and I can't make you one, but, like, do you want to, like, charge up a bit extra, or stuff like that, and he'd displayed kindness towards her, and they'd lived together as father and daughter, or as housemates, or as friends, or whatever. Yep. Do you think that Ava's response to everything else would be different?
Well, she says in the recordings when Nathan's in her room and rips up her picture, it's like, is it strange having the thing you created hate you? So I can't. So either Nathan has programmed her to hate him, which I don't think is likely.
No, because I'd argue the entire point is that he's sort of put the Play-Doh in her hands, as it were.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then she wouldn't need to think outside the box and try and manipulate the only person there to try and escape. So I think she would probably be nicer. But would she then have the same desire to go out and people watch?
That's a good question. I imagine in that situation, because if you sort of raised her almost like a child, but a sort of hyper-intelligent child,
Yep.
then Christ knows you do a lot of things differently. Like, there's
definitely
one of the security tapes. The android says, "Why won't you let me out?" And Nathan says something like, "I've told you this, it's because you're special," which is so not the right thing to say in that situation.
Yeah.
If you were to say to her, if you just explain to her, you are a different kind of life form to everybody else, and I've made you, sure, but I need to make sure that it's safe for you to go out there. We can go out and not talk to anyone if you want, but I can't make you talk to people because that won't be safe for you.
Yep.
And once you explain that, again, I suppose it comes down to, is Ava's personality, is Kyoko's personality, is any of the previous AI's personalities, is that a learned thing that they've generated on their own like a child does? Or is that something that Nathan put into their head?
Yeah.
Did Nathan choose to make that robot that smashed the glass, did he choose to make her aggressive? And did he choose to make her have a temper? And did he choose to make Ava manipulative?
Well, I mean, I think it's better that they don't go into it, because then it leaves us to make a podcast and ask these questions for ourselves. No, but I think that it's possible that he just gave, a brain that can already process quite a lot of information and gave it the basic survival instincts of a human being.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that if it was a human being behind the glass, we would think, and we would then realise, well, this guy, I've never met him before. So we're good. We're quite good at well, not all of us. A lot of us are good at determining if someone's attracted to us or not, and then we could then use that. Maybe not to the same sort of advanced degree that Ava does, but we would then realise, oh well, we need to try and manipulate him to help us get free.
Sure.
So it's probably it probably would be the same. And I think if you were kind and you let Ava roam free in the wilderness for a wee bit, then I think she would turn out a lot different.
I've been thinking that the key theme of the film is isolation to an incredibly huge degree, in that Nathan is isolated from everybody because he's so incredibly intelligent, and he lives. What's that helicopter pilot say? We've been flying over his estate for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, which by the way is not possible. Okay, I know that it's a good sort of he's very rich, but 2 hours of flying over an estate. Come on now.
Yeah.
Where does he live?
I suppose you'd have to presume it was either somewhere in the American or Canadian wilderness, or middle of the Sahara Desert. But he's got like forests and stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, did he buy Luxembourg or something like that?
I don't even know. I don't know how big Luxembourg is. Is it possible to fly over Luxembourg in less than 2 hours?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it takes like an hour to get down to London from Glasgow.
And that's... I have no idea how far that is. That's a while.
But helicopters are slower than planes, aren't they?
I think they can be. I think, again, it depends on the helicopter, it depends on the plane, but by and large, probably. Because I think they can't go as high, so they have like more air resistance and stuff to run into.
Fair enough.
That's high school physics with Lewis Brindley. But yeah, Nathan is isolated because of his physical isolation, because he's so clever and all this sort of stuff. Caleb is isolated, I think, in a very interesting way, in that he's isolated by both... He's isolated by his intelligence, like Nathan is, but he's also isolated by the trauma he went through in that car crash. You see those scars down his back when he's having a shave and stuff in the morning.
Yeah,
And that's
definitely.
from the car crash. We're led to assume those are the scars from this car crash and the surgery that kept him in hospital for a year and whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
And obviously Ava is isolated because she's like, I mean she's in a prison cell, and she's the only sort of one of her kind, really. If you discount Kyoko, who we're led to believe is sort of a proto-Ava.
Yeah.
And we're sort of also led to believe that Nathan has killed all the other androids.
Yeah, I mean, are they just dormant and are switched off? Do you think it's even possible to switch them off?
I really don't know.
Because their brains are like, that gel. And
yeah,
they show such signs of humanity that maybe it's not even possible to switch them off. And that's the only option he had, to put her in a cage. But then...
Maybe, but then Kyoko dies at the end of the film.
That's true, yeah. I mean, why would you make something that you couldn't switch off?
I suppose you would presume that Nathan, being incredibly smart and incredibly ruthless, he'd probably build in some kind of kill switch.
Yeah.
But then maybe he, again, had this sort of God complex of thinking, well, I don't want to have to build any kind of kill switch. I want to make this person a human being.
Possibly, yeah.
One thing I was curious about as well is, obviously I've watched a lot of Star Trek, you know this, and the entire point that they make about Data, about is he a human, is he an android, what is he? Can he think? Is he sentient? Is he a unique being and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
But on the same level, there's an episode in which Data learns how to dream.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Ava the robot, A, sleeps, and B, dreams?
Do we see her sleep? I mean, we see her lying down.
We do see her sleep.
We see her lying down and looking provocatively
at the camera to manipulate Nathan a bit.
Yeah.
Not Nathan, Caleb.
Yeah. Maybe Nathan as well. Maybe it's a...
Maybe Nathan, this is true.
Yep, kill two birds with one stone. But we don't see her sleep. And if we do, then I can't remember where. But what would she dream about? Presumably the traffic intersection.
Perhaps, yeah. They make a point in Star Trek about talking about how Data's dreams are very ham-fisted metaphors for whatever he's stressed out about.
Yeah.
Like, there's this dream he keeps having, I think, where, like, these workmen who are dressed like Victorian workmen shoveling coal into a train engine, they're, like, taking apart the Enterprise and trying to fix it in some way.
Yeah.
And it, like, eventually it comes round that there is actually a problem with the Enterprise, and Data is detecting it on some level that he's not conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether Ava would have these incredibly ham-fisted metaphor-type dreams, which are, essentially, if you were trying to algorithmify a dream, I guess that's probably how you do it. Do you know what I mean? If you, like, take today's inputs and make a weird metaphor about them, and then play that back for an hour and a half, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or would she have dreams that are more imaginative and stuff like you say, the traffic intersection? It's something completely abstract that she's never seen, but she's just imagining it. Because we can infer that she has, can infer that she has the ability to imagine, because she has imagined going outside, or at least I thought she had anyway. Those snippets from the sessions where Ava was stood outside with the black and white, where he's talking about, was it Mary in a box or something like that?
Yeah. No, is that her imagination or is that Caleb's?
Well, there was two very similar pieces of footage, one in black and white and one in full colour. And one of them, I think the black and white one, had Caleb also in it. But I think the other one didn't have Caleb in it.
I think you're right, I think I remember that. And she sort of looks back at the camera by herself. So it's safe to assume then that Caleb's one is obviously the one with him in it. And Ava's is the one where she's alone, just in the wilderness, just appreciating it.
Yeah, and here's another thing as well. This is Lewis Brindley talks about cameras for 10 minutes. Whenever any of the characters are a bit disoriented or a bit unsure of their surroundings, the lens goes a bit like blurry. I'm not sure how else to describe it. They used to do this thing in like ye olden days of films and
Right.
stuff. Where they'd take a handful of Vaseline and rub it on the camera lens, for like dream sequences and stuff, because it would make everything a bit blurry and everything a bit dreamlike. And it feels like some of these scenes is where they've done that. And for Ava, it's when she's outside, and she's thinking, "Wow, these trees are amazing," but this is really weird. I don't know what to expect. Everything's real weird out in these trees. And for Caleb, it's whenever Nathan is like set upon him, and Nathan is like those scenes when Nathan starts asking Caleb, "Do you think Ava's attractive? Do you want to have sex with Ava?" and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh my god, this is really stressful. I don't know." And he's really freaking out because it's like a personal question that he's not ready to answer. And in those situations, they've got this lens effect going on, which I was a big fan of. I'm a big fan of like visual storytelling in that way, and I think that was really, really cool.
I mean, it's very good for that. I mean, just like you were saying about the visual storytelling. I mean, the place that they're in, like, to go back to the sort of biblical metaphor, it's like the Garden of Eden, really.
In a lot of ways, I suppose so.
I mean, there's a tree behind Ava's room, which I suppose is meant to represent the tree of knowledge, but like it is incredibly stunning in terms of visual storytelling. You're right, I agree with you.
And one of the things I loved most about that tree was a shot where Ava walks up to it. And we've seen it in the background for a lot of these different shots. And Ava walks up to it, and she sort of almost presses her face up against the glass. You see her looking at the tree, and then it's like from her point of view, she looks at the tree and looks up. And it's lights in the ceiling. It doesn't go out like you'd always imagined it would, like a skylight. It's bulbs in the ceiling, like feeding this tree light. Which is like, again, it's just like so many layers of... She's in a cell.
Yeah.
And you don't realise it until the very, very end of the film, when Caleb is in the house, which has been made into a cell in this weird way. You don't... Because it's so difficult to empathise with Ava. Because for the whole film, you're thinking, well, she's just an android anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly. And you're questioning whether she even has sentience at all, because that's the whole premise of the film.
And then, as soon as Caleb is in any kind of danger, you're thinking, well, this is a horror movie now.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of like that horror movie thing, I think the key cards were an absolutely fantastic piece of both visual storytelling and just... They're a fantastic set piece.
Well, go on.
In that he goes up to the doorbell on the first day and he gets that photo taken of him, and he's printed out an ID card and he like boops it on all the doors and he gets in. And Nathan shows him around the house and says, okay, well, if you boop a door and it goes blue and it unlocks, then you're allowed in there. And if it goes red, then you're not. And at first, especially for someone like me who's like, when you go to someone's house and they say, oh yeah, the bathroom is just the first door on the left, by the time you get upstairs, you're thinking, oh my god, I've forgotten where the bathroom, and you're like looking in people's bedrooms, thinking, oh my god, what am I doing? And it becomes this stressful exercise. And at the time watching this film, I'm thinking, that's actually kind of great, in a sense of like, because at the start you're sort of led to believe Nathan is this business mogul, and he has like businessmen round for dinner, and he talks with them over sushi that Kyoko prepares and all this, and so you're thinking, well, that's kind of great then, if the businessmen are just allowed in like his gym and their bedroom and the kitchen and the toilet. That's great. That kind of makes sense. But then that first time the generators go out and everything goes that very iconic shade of HAL 9000 red, and suddenly the keycard system becomes like a horror film, and you're thinking, I can't get out because there's no lock on this door. There's no physical lock. It's just a big piece of reinforced glass. I can't get through the door, and I'm locked in here for the foreseeable future, and I've got no idea what I'm going to do. And you can see this panic on Domhnall Gleeson's face as he's hitting this keycard to the thing, and it's not working, and he can't get out, and he doesn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden the generators come back online, and it becomes this fantastic, amazing solution to an everyday problem all over again.
I mean, I agree. I mean, and why? See, when he realizes, like, for me, just because I'm a paranoid nutcase, if there was a mechanism in place that once the power fails, I couldn't get out, like, I would then think about leaving, like, definitely.
Yeah, immediately you would leave.
It's like, yeah, aren't you curious about the android? No, not if I die of starvation.
I am curious, yes, but I don't want to immediately die, please.
Exactly.
If we could arrange that, that'd be fantastic. If you could give me just like a big piece of iron that's in the shape of a key, so I can unlock all that, that's great. Let's do it that way. Or let's just have emergency master keys. That'd be even better.
Yeah.
And Nathan, if you could stop behaving like a complete psycho, and so I can just have a chat with you about Ava, and I can say, yeah, sorry, mate, you are a bit weird, but Ava told me today that you lied to her and that you've like killed her like previous iterations of her. So you know what, mate, this house locks when the power goes out. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna take my chances. I'm gonna walk for a 2-hour flight, and I'm gonna hike through the wilderness and get home. Because honestly, stuff this seems like some kind of horrible cabin in the woods situation.
Stop dancing, Nathan. Okay, and just listen to
the
me.
Dancing scene.
What is your analysis on that?
The dance scene is one of my favourite scenes in cinema of all time ever.
It is pretty good.
It's absolutely incredible. It's it just shows how disconnected Nathan is, and how Caleb comes and said, "Why did you tear up her picture?" And he's this incredibly emotional question, expecting an emotional response, and Nathan just goes, "I'm gonna tear up this dance floor, bro. Chill out." And then he starts dancing, and it's amazing.
I mean, he's so he's so, but he is aware though, isn't he, of human behaviour?
He is, but I think he just doesn't care.
I think he's just so apathetic to it.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. One thing that I thought about the whole film, like you thought that the main theme was like isolation, which is a good point. But do you think that it's maybe about like philosophy? Like,
how so?
Because like, well, obviously Nathan, we can agree, is like the god figure in the film, and I think by the end of it, you know, I mean, well, at the start, Caleb is sort of in awe of Nathan, as if he would be a god, and he gets his messages from this unknown, this invisible entity that lives in a paradise that you can't reach or see, and then he finally gets to go there, and he slowly realizes that the god that he loved and the god that he thought was real isn't, and by the end of the film, maybe him trapped behind the glass is a representation for him being trapped in nihilism.
And having lost his faith in Nathan.
Yeah, having, realising that God is dead, and he is, in that specific context, and him trapped alone is just existential nihilism being played out.
And I suppose the really, really sort of chilling thing that we haven't considered is that on the other side of that very see-through glass door is Nathan's corpse.
Yes.
Which is incredibly horrible, just to think Caleb is trying to batter down this door, and Nathan's corpse is just there. And then even when he's in the sort of corridor with the corpse in, the corpsidor, or whatever it would be, he's... I can't resist a good portmanteau. This is something... You've known me for 1,000 years. I cannot resist a good portmanteau. They're amazing.
Fair enough.
But when he's in this corridor with Nathan and Kyoko's bodies in it, he's then got to break down the elevator door as well.
Yeah.
And then, presumably, the outside... Do you see what I mean? It's this incredible...
Yeah.
Could that be some kind of metaphor for, like, trying to regain faith after you've lost it?
I mean, that's a very good point. I think that that's probably true. I mean, do you think that the writer has thought, like, really? Like, because I know that if I write something, I don't fucking go into... like, oh, this could represent nihilism. This could I've never done that. I mean, I'll have like themes in mind that I want to portray, but I don't go into this deep, massive sort of thought prison where I try and decipher every single meaning. Like, do you think that the writer has thought that extensively about it, or do you think it's just a happy accident?
Well, from what I understand, it was just one writer, and it was a writer-director.
Oh, that may...
Which I suppose it sort of changes things in a weird way, doesn't it? Because the writer-director might have these ideas that he wants to display this isolation, he wants to display this, again, this loss of faith in Nathan God.
Yeah.
And...
Alex Garland.
Alex Garland, that's it, yeah. But I do see your point about how did Alex Garland, the writer-director, did he actively pick a theme and run with it, or did he make this film deliberately ambiguous so it's open to interpretation? Like, I think it's about isolation, and you think it's about a loss of faith.
Yeah.
Was that a deliberate choice? Did he pick those two themes? Did he pick one of those themes? Did he pick neither of them? Is it literally just a sort of a cabin in the woods movie?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it though.
No, it doesn't feel like it at all.
It feels too sophisticated, and that sounds so snobbish. It's like, oh well, it's a higher meaning, and I hate like sort of, I hate that, but it's true. It's like it's so well thought of and so well done that it can't just be a horror film about an AI that goes bad.
Here's a question for you. If in your metaphor of it reflecting the Bible and it reflecting the story of Genesis and all this sort of stuff, if Adam and Eve are Ava and Caleb, and God is Nathan, who is Kyoko in that situation?
That's a good point. One of the angels, maybe, or the serpent, or I mean, I don't know how would she be the serpent.
Within the narrative, Kyoko goes from this maid that you're sort of taken to presume, or at least I did at first, that does Nathan hit her? Does Nathan abuse her? Is that the kind of dynamic they've got going on? Because when she spills that wine and Nathan goes absolutely mental at her, I'm sort of thinking, well, is this how he is with everybody? Is this like another symptom of his madness, his isolation? Is he really just kicking off everybody? But then as it goes onwards, you sort of learn that he created Kyoko in the creepiest, weirdest way possible. As like, he is sort of her father, so does he view it as chastising a child? As you would if a child dropped wine on the carpet?
Yeah.
But then, you wouldn't, like, scream swear words at a child that didn't speak your language.
Yeah.
You know what? That's, like, the most futile thing you could possibly do.
He didn't program her to understand English.
Well, I think that's an interesting question as well.
He explains that it's like... He explains that it's trade secrets that he doesn't want to go, awry. But, like, why wouldn't you just program her to be mute and understand English?
Well, that was what I thought. Has he programmed her to be mute? That was my presumption, was he'd programmed her to be mute, and she was scared to leave, scared to do anything wrong, because she was aware of what had come before. In that she was aware that he'd deactivated so many AIs before her, and she was worried that if she did anything wrong or spoke out of turn or anything like that, then she would be deactivated too. She would be killed.
Yeah.
The point I was getting to was that it's really creepy that Nathan not only made all of the AIs into these very beautiful women, but he also didn't give them any clothes. Like, you see those surveillance tapes, and the one that he taught how to walk. And at first she's just like a pair of robot legs, then he gives the robot legs skin, and then she's like robot legs plus a torso, and then plus a chest, and like a shoulders and arms and a head and stuff. It's really creepy. He's really weird. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he is. He's pretty weird.
I don't know about you, but I would probably feel creeped out in that situation. It's weird. It's weird.
I mean, I did feel pretty creeped out about it. I mean, I suppose like it's a sort of you would want to focus on just the anatomy first, wouldn't you? Before you thought, oh, what is she gonna wear? No, but exactly. I think
why not make a like genderless grey box and make the AI work, and then when the genderless grey box has enough sentience and enough belief in its own existence to really make choices about itself, say to it, okay, do you want a body then?
I mean,
and then either allow it to design its own body, which could potentially go very badly because it could end up in like a Terminator type situation, or allow it to become like Ava, and it's like, I actually really want to look like Alicia Vikander, and then he makes Ava. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that might be just his callousness. Because maybe he just well, I don't really have any women around here, so I'll just make myself some. It could have literally just started out that way. Yeah.
While I'm at it.
while I'm working on an AI that I'm programming to escape.
Imagine that. He's starting out. God, that's real creepy, isn't it? That's real. Imagining it the other way around, of like, yeah, I'm just making some sex toys, and you know what? I might as well make them sentient.
That is pretty creepy.
God, that's even creepier. Bloody hell.
And he talks to Caleb about there's an opening, and there's a pressure of sensors. So why would he make that?
Yes, exactly. Why design it? And then he says that thing briefly about like, I programmed her to be heterosexual. It's like, well, yeah, mate, you did, but why? Why program her to be heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual or any other kind of anything? If you're still concerned about working some kinks out in the AI,
yeah.
Why make it more complex when you just have to sort out?
I mean,
the
I suppose that was for whoever he decided to come and try and see if she could escape. Like, I think that she was. I think she was programmed as heterosexual for Caleb, and I think that was because he must have known on some level that he would that he would be manipulated, or she would try and manipulate him sexually.
Perhaps, or perhaps he was living his life sort of with blind optimism, as in the Garden of Eden. I was thinking like, well, no, I don't think she will try and like sexually manipulate me. I think that I'm just optimistic about our future together. Because when you actually give it some thought, what kind of a future together could that possibly be? What kind of shape could that possibly take? She is literally an android made in a shack in the woods. She hasn't got, like, a birth certificate or a social security number. Yeah. She hasn't been educated. Would she get a job? Does she need to eat? How much power? When you actually start to ask all these very basic human survival type questions, it's nearly impossible to see a future they could possibly have together, even as much as it's obvious that Caleb wants that.
I don't think that Nathan created her to sort of survive outside of the compound, which is, but for some reason he gave her the instinct to leave.
Maybe not. No, maybe he just created her like as a grey box for AI testing, but then he didn't think. You think, well, if one day she does want to leave, maybe I'll just fit some bigger batteries in her, or I'll put charging
maybe that just
like
continues to prove
Elon Musk has done with his superchargers for the Teslas.
He has this god complex. It's like, well, I'll give her the urge to escape and to see what's out there, but I will not make her, I won't make her so that she can sustain herself outside of this place. Which is pretty horrible when you think about it. It's
incredibly horrible. Yeah, it's
very callous.
Very, very callous. It's endowing free will and then taking it away almost.
Yeah.
And while we're... Right, here's a question for you. Did you or did you not think the acting in this film was absolutely stunning?
I think it was, yeah.
I know we've been talking a lot about the ramifications of like AI and stuff like that, but the acting in this film was incredible.
Oh, yeah, it really was. I mean,
Nathan, as in Oscar Isaac, was absolutely incredible. Unspeakably brilliant.
Yeah, I did hate him, which was, I suppose, the aim of the venture. But yeah, I just despised him.
Yeah, and I think that's the amazing thing is, I sort of believed it.
Yeah,
I sort of believed that Oscar Isaac was this horrific, conscienceless man in the woods.
Yeah,
and that brief. When they first met, and Nathan said to Caleb, "It's good to meet you too, Caleb." But there's that slight pause, and he says it with this slight familiarity, because of course Nathan already knows Caleb. Nathan has selected Caleb. Nathan has been watching Caleb through his camera in his mobile phone for years.
Yeah, and he says that he looked at his... Well, Caleb said, "Did you design her face based on my pornography profile?"
Yeah.
So he knows him inside out.
Exactly. Which is sort of both terrifying and amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
But as I say, Oscar Isaac was brilliant. In every single scene in this film, none of his reactions felt false. They all felt, yeah, that makes sense
Yeah.
for what the character would do in that situation.
Definitely.
And they just all felt believable. They all felt so very good.
Yeah.
And Alicia Vikander was similarly brilliant, I think.
Yes, she was fantastic.
I think the disparity between talking to Caleb with Nathan watching, talking to Caleb without Nathan watching, and then completely out of the blue, a completely different personality right at the end of the film when she doesn't care if they're watching anymore.
Yeah. I mean, when you first watch it, you feel obviously sorry for her and you want her to escape with Caleb.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you watch it for a second time and you know that it's a ruse, you can see that she's trying as hard as she can to make him believe that she's benevolent, and you can see it in her eyes that because she's such a great actor, she has this sort of dead eye thing going on. Her eyes are just dead, but her face is like she smiles.
Expressionful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christ, there's one point at which she displays nervous tics. Like she starts like clicking her fingers together and stuff because she's nervous to.
Even when he's closed his eyes, she's like grabbing the sort of edges of her dress to sort of, I'm very nervous about what I'm about to show you. So do you think that's simulated, even though she knows that his eyes are closed, or do you think it's just in the eventuality that he opens his eyes?
I think that is simulated because at the time, Nathan was watching.
Yeah.
I think she wants to put on. It's almost like it's almost a play.
Yeah.
Of I'm gonna pretend to fall in love with Caleb, so that when Nathan watches, he knows what I'm doing, but he doesn't know that Caleb is actually very clever and is gonna let me out.
Yeah.
It's a play on so many different fronts. Like you say, it's these chess pieces.
Do you think that at any point during the film, Ava felt emotions for Caleb? Or do you think it was all simulated?
I would like to think she did, but I think realistically, no, she didn't.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
That's so horrible. Oh, but it's good though. I mean, it's just pretending to love someone.
Just to manipulate them
Just to
in that
manipulate
really weird
them.
way, yeah.
But then you look at it from her point of view, it's like, well, I'm trapped. Like, I've got nowhere to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can do whatever he wants to me, and I just have to sit here and do nothing about it. No, I'm going to use everything I can to escape.
Completely, yeah.
Do you think she
is,
feels
in so many
bad?
ways. I don't know if she feels bad. Because...
Go on.
Oh, that's a good question. It's a big question, in that she could feel bad. It's implied that she has the capacity to understand what guilt is.
Yeah.
It's implied that she has the capacity to understand all human emotions, and she briefly mentions about micro-expressions and stuff like that, and being able to understand what they look like on people.
Yeah.
But then, again, this is where it gets down to the chess computer problem, is how Caleb puts it, is she displaying what those emotions look like, or is she feeling those emotions and making the corresponding facial expressions unconsciously, almost?
I don't know, because she gives one last look to Caleb as she
and she
leaves.
looks utterly guilt-free. She doesn't care that she's trapped this man, condemned this man.
Does she?
I think so.
I'm gonna have a look at it. Just
okay. Go on then. I'll let you.
I'm on. Thank you for your permission. I'll go on to Netflix. I'm on Netflix now, and I just want to see that look, just to see if she has a sort of twinge of. It's almost as if she's been hired to put down horses. If you know what I mean.
Right.
Like she's,
I don't know.
Just go with me here. It's as if she's the person who puts the horse down after it can't run. And
okay.
And maybe it looks as if she's done it so many times
that she's now desensitized to it.
Yeah, I think she knows that what she's done is morally wrong.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe she knows that academically. In the same way that you and I know the sun's hot without ever having to touch it.
Yeah. Oh,
it might be that she doesn't have moral a moral compass, but she knows what things are realistically morally right and morally wrong.
But well, then if that were the case, then you would have to say that there are moral, objective truths, which I don't believe that there are.
No, that's another thing. Is if there are moral objective truths, then in this film, Caleb is incredibly moral.
Yeah.
Nathan is incredibly immoral, and Ava is amoral.
Yeah, she's amoral. Yeah.
Yeah, and because Ava does all these different things, but because it's not clear whether she has a concept of what's right and wrong, you don't know whether she's behaving morally or not, behaving ethically or not.
I think being amoral is even more chilling than being immoral.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because if you're immoral, that means that you know what is moral. But if you're amoral, you have no concept, or simply you just don't care about what's right and what's wrong, and you follow your goal without regard to anyone else. I think that's just chilling. I mean, that's just if Ava was a human being, she'd be a psychopath.
Definitely.
I mean, but she's not narcissistic. Or maybe she is, but she hasn't showed it. She just has one goal, and maybe we're assigning too many sort of emotions to her. Maybe
she's emotionless, but she's just displaying what she knows that Nathan and Caleb want to see.
Yeah, and maybe the goal that she has already been programmed into her by Nathan, and she's just acting it out.
Maybe, because that would fit in with your theory about Ava wanting to stay.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, about did Nathan program Ava to want to leave because he wanted her to leave, if that makes sense? Did Nathan... Because, like, at the end, he doesn't seem to care that he's dying.
Yeah.
Is that because he has little regard for himself? Is that because he's impressed with how far Ava's come?
Maybe.
Is he proud of her in the same way a parent is proud of a child?
Or maybe he got what he, maybe he's just impressed by his coding and by his
own ability.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
But one thing that I didn't get, that I think was to pretend that the helicopter pilot wouldn't have had any questions about who the fuck are you?
Exactly, because we presume the helicopter pilot is the same helicopter pilot that takes everybody to and from.
Yeah.
So is he going to land there and say, I'm sorry, ma'am, who are you?
Yeah.
Are you just somebody from the wilderness that just lives here in the wilderness?
Yeah, I mean, he would be like, sorry, ma'am, I'm here to collect a ginger guy that I need to take back. And she's just like... No, he's preoccupied.
He's staying for a couple more days. I'm going instead.
Yeah. Sorry, who are you?
That's all she could have possibly said.
Yeah, I'm Ava. Do you get any... No, I'm just wearing this white dress and carrying nothing with me.
I like the bit where she takes her shoes off to hike through the woods.
Yeah.
What? Come on now.
Your skin is held on by fucking Velcro. Come on.
It's like magnets in the sort of hexagonal endoskeleton type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems pretty easy to tear off.
Yeah, because Kyoko does it without much difficulty.
Yeah. Do you think the skin is like real skin?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe.
Because if it is...
Do you mean like grown in a lab type stuff?
Yeah, because if it isn't, and it's artificial, isn't there a chance that she could just fucking melt?
Yeah, that's another good point as well.
she could just look... The skin could dissolve off of her at any point, and she'd be doing her job, and she'd be working in Tesco's or something, and she's like, "Is that all for you, ma'am?" And this guy's like, "What the fuck's happened to your arm, man?"
And her arm just melts off.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's crazy. But then another thing I thought is when she approaches the helicopter pilot, she either sweet talks the helicopter pilot, because we don't see the helicopter take off. I don't think. Or we might do.
I think we do.
Oh, well then...
I'll just tell you now. I'll tell you now. I'll just go to that bit. Yeah, it does. Yep, takes off.
In that case, because my initial reaction was, Well, she either sweet-talked the helicopter pilot,
Or kills him.
or she immediately kills him and just happens to know how to fly a helicopter.
Yeah, that seems very unlikely. I think she probably sweet-talked him. I mean, she's incredibly good at manipulating people, so maybe she'd already thought about what to say
Maybe.
when she left.
But then how did she know the helicopter was going to land there?
That's true.
Did Caleb tell her, I've just come... I don't think he did tell her he came on a helicopter. I think he just said, I've come for a couple of days.
Well, she's able to hack in somehow to the systems in the compound. So
Yeah, reversing the charge through the base plate of her feet or whatever, yeah.
Yep. So maybe she can, see through the cameras or something. But I mean, it's not a difficult leap to make when you think about it. I mean, it's like, well, you got here presumably by flying, or presumably by somehow. So if I walk around a bit, maybe I'll
probably find some planes or something.
Yeah, I'll find something. And even if she doesn't, she'd probably be happy there. Just wandering around until she finally just runs out of charge and dies.
Aye.
And poor Caleb, fucking hell, sat in that room by himself. And do you think anyone will find him?
Well, that was another thing I thought. Right at the start of the film, the email comes through and it says, "Congratulations, you've won this lottery to come and stay at Nathan's house for a week," or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then... but then all his mates come round and they're like clapping him and they're like saying, "Oh, well done, Caleb, woo, woo, woo," and he's like having texts and emails from people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where he is, right?
I don't...
Like, all his friends and family, they all know he's at Nathan's house.
Yeah, but do they know where that is?
But that's my point. If one of his family were like, "Yeah, he's been missing for, like, quite a good while."
Yeah.
Could they file a missing persons report with the police? Then
Someone
the police,
knows.
Somebody knows
that
that is Nathan's address, because they have to.
Because he has business guests over, as he said.
Yeah.
So, and he's the owner of a fucking massive company. That it's like, did Ava say it was like 96% of all of the world's search engines?
Yeah, something like that.
So if he says, well, for a week I don't want to be disturbed, I'm doing a thing with my friend Caleb, blah blah blah, and then when the week's over, the company's still running, and surely someone will be like, yeah, fuck, Nathan is not answering his calls, someone needs to go over there and check on him.
Yeah, would Nathan's company dissolve?
Maybe.
Because, like, when Steve Jobs died, Apple didn't collapse.
Yeah, it was run by a board, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe his is the same, or maybe he gave them prior instructions. Maybe
if I die, release my AI into the wild so it can roam free and hunt bears.
Yeah, maybe he told
something along those lines. Yeah.
Maybe he told that to the helicopter pilot. Or
do you think the helicopter pilot knew about the AI?
Well, maybe not the AI, but he might have said, "Look, you're dropping off this guy. He's staying here for quite a long time. A woman will be leaving. Just take her to where you dropped him off."
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Go on.
I'm just thinking of the Yogscast when they're talking about how Tin Man in Shadow of Israfel got across that lava. And they go through all the logical options, and Simon is like, "Oh, maybe Megan Fox and Olivia Wilde came out and they took their tops off and started kissing each other." And Lewis is like, "We haven't got an animation for that."
Where was it that Caleb was held? Was he within the body of the house? Could he get to a kitchen and a toilet? Because if he could live there for, I don't know how much food he has there, but months? Weeks?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think so. I think he was trapped in one room.
Because, oh God.
No, he was, because she went through the elevator and then she walked through. So
because he was trapped in Nathan's bedroom suite, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he's gonna starve to death.
Yeah, probably.
Wow. Fuck.
God, that's really intense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? Did you? I mean, obviously, this entire story is all about AI and AI, ostensibly anyway. It's about AI in general.
Yeah.
so there's always been stories about AI. There's Data from Star Trek. There's HAL 9000 from
Skynet from Terminator.
Skynet. Exactly. Did you think there were a lot of visual clues about like HAL, and there were a lot of homages to like 2001?
Yes,
like,
definitely.
The doorbell, when it went from that blue color to that red color, that it looked like the HAL unit.
Yeah.
And there's this one line, I've got it written down here somewhere. I understand you want me to explain how Ava works, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do that.
I'm sorry.
Which is lifted from, I'm sorry, Dave, I'm not going to be able to do that.
It's true. I mean, you have to, if you're going to make an AI film or a robot film, you have to include homages to HAL.
Completely,
at some point. I mean, it's just, I mean, what a film that is as well. What an absolute magnum opus that is.
It's definitely something. It's slow, and I found it boring in parts.
Very slow, but it's...
But the points that it makes are fascinating.
Yeah. And I think it's in the same vein as Ex Machina. I think that, you know, what is Ex Machina comes from the name... It comes from Deus Ex Machina, which is like...
Yeah, outside of the machine.
Yeah, or... I think Deus Ex Machina is like...
Yeah, a god outside of the machine.
Yeah,
or whatever.
God, from God to machine. I can't remember exactly what it means. But I think it's just about like human nature in general and how we have a tendency to be or try and be like what God is.
Yeah, sure.
And who we are is what we end up creating at the end of the day. I think that's what happened. I think Nathan tried to make something artificial and ended up making something real, and it betrayed him.
That's a good point. Okay, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think Nathan had the contractors killed?
What what do you mean the contractors?
Because briefly over that dinner where Nathan spills the red wine, briefly he mentions that we've been having trouble with the generators and they keep going offline. The contractor said it'd be bulletproof, but clearly it's not, and all this. And then Caleb makes a joke about, oh, can't you call them to come back? And Nathan says, no, I had them all killed. And then it's like he's joking about it. So I had them all killed.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I think he's capable of doing that.
Definitely. Because that's the age-old thing about like Batman, isn't it? Is the only way that Batman could sustainably operate is by killing everybody that has any knowledge of the cave.
Yeah. And he built that by himself.
Him and Alfred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a scene in Family Guy where like it's like a cutaway to like Stewie and Batman, and he's like, wait a minute, you brought in like 100 guys to help build your cave? Like, aren't you worried that they're gonna tell people stuff? He's like, yeah, well, I told them it was just a fundraising thing. Batman, you've got a lazy Susan for your atomic car. That's something they find conversation worthy.
Well, I mean, exactly, yeah. It's, as I say, he has to have had those contractors killed. Or did he make contractor AIs?
Oh, there you go.
The contractor AIs built the house, and then he deactivated them and put them into Kyoko.
I mean, it's it seems a bit... So he made AIs to make his house so that he could make another AI to try and escape.
Yeah, that's the one.
What?
No, I doubt it.
Well, maybe he did. I mean, he's got a lot of fucking time in his hands. I mean, he does. He just drinks and dances and then goes, oh, do you know what I'll do? I'll make a good few AI and they'll build my house, and then I'll make another one to eventually escape.
And I'll keep it in a cell and I'll be really cruel to it. That's what I'll do. That's a good idea.
But that could be, I mean, as God, if you know, God is omnipotent, so anything that God does is morally justified because, you know, there is no bigger force to tell him not to. So maybe that's like, I can do it because I can, because I'm sovereign, because there's no one else to tell me not to.
Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose is true. If you were omnipotent, you would. I mean, I know that I would. I would just do shit. You know, I would just do random shit. I'd be like, just make pigs with like little Hitler mustaches. Just random nonsensical shit.
I suppose to some degree, for me, I would still want to be good. I think.
Yeah.
I think I have this sort of moral drive to be good, to do good things, to be kind to people. I think even if I woke up tomorrow with complete omnipotence, I think I would probably still want to do good.
I don't think that would last though.
You not think?
I think that you would maintain it for a good number of years, but I think that once you've sorted out all the problems, what are you gonna do? Like, problems are like sort of just problems are necessary for life, because if there's no struggle, then what's the point?
That's a good point.
And
because
I think
then it raises the question of, say I feed every single hungry person in the world, and I end world hunger as this omnipotent being that I now apparently am.
Yeah.
What are they going to do for the meal after that?
Yeah.
Am I going to be like a meal replacement service for 3 billion people in the world or whatever? That's not like a sustainable way to live. It's not a sustainable way to help people.
No, it really isn't. And I think that once you've done another podcast as this omnipotent being, you'd realise, oh shit, I can't really do anything to help anyone, because everyone will just become shells, and everyone will just become fully fed, fully happy and realised people, and they'll never learn anything because they already have what they want.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you would start making pigs with little Hitler moustaches.
That's the pigs with Hitler moustaches stage. What's the stage after that? Is it zebras with the handlebar moustaches?
No, nothing so coarse, Lewis. It would be
okay,
zebras with the stripes going the opposite way. Really,
what does that even mean?
Really tear up some shit, you know. That's gonna.
No, you can't just say that.
Yes, I can.
What the hell is that?
I'm omnipotent.
Stripes going the other way.
I'm omnipotent. I can do what I want. Okay.
Oh, so instead of being black and white, they're white and black.
Yes.
Ah, yeah. Now I've said it that way. That makes loads of sense. Yeah. Okay. Sure. And then after that, it's inverting the colours of a giraffe and.
Yep.
Yeah.
And having like I don't know, like, you know those yogurts that you put.
Yeah, I do know yogurts.
I can already imagine the ridiculousness of that. You know those yogurts with the chocolate balls that you pour in. Like every time someone does that, they pour the chocolate balls and then the yogurt disappears, and they just go, "Damn it!" And then they move on with their lives.
So how would one eat one of those yogurts then? Would you have to pour the yogurt into the little chocolate ball pot?
I haven't thought that far ahead, Lewis. I mean, I can't do everything, right?
You're omnipotent. You literally can.
Exactly. See, it's an oxymoron. But surely, if you're omnipotent, then there has to be a way that you can't do something.
How do you mean?
Because if you can do everything, then surely there has to be something that you can't do. Because if you can not do something, then you're not omnipotent.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
Well, I suppose that's the age-old paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if I make a rock that no one can lift, including me, then that would debunk my omnipotence. Because omnipotent, I can lift it. But if I make something that I can't lift, then I'm not omnipotent anymore.
I don't know if it would debunk your omnipotence. I think it would just make you, like, very, very powerful.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there isn't a logic fairy that will come along and go, no omnipotence for you. Just take it off me.
It's like the genie from Aladdin. He stopped being a genie at the end of Aladdin, and then he started just going to people who are newly omnipotent.
Yeah.
And they've discovered paradoxes and saying, right, no omnipotence for you anymore. And you hear the voice of Robin Williams, and you're thinking, what the hell is going on?
I mean, it's such an interesting concept. Omnipotence.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like omniscience as well. Like, how could you prove you were omniscient? There would be, there could be something that you don't know that you don't know, and there'd be no way to tell.
Very good point. A very good point, Danny. Congratulations on that really good point.
Thank you.
I think I'm losing my mind a bit now.
I know. Jesus, what a complicated film to start with.
Oh God, yeah.
Like,
we could have picked like
we could have just done like Breaking
Shaun
Bad.
of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead.
That's not an outwardly that complicated. Sure, it has different undertones about like implications of the zombie apocalypse, but
but it's pretty
overall not that not as complex as Ex Machina, where I've got all these pages and pages of notes. But
I mean,
what should we do next week? I don't know. Let's do Watchmen.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God! Watchmen.
Let's do something less outrageously complex next week.
Yes, I think that's a very good idea.
Okay.
I think we've expended all of the knowledge that we have on this.
Yes,
I know that I
have.
My brain is beginning to hurt.
Yes, I'm going to go next door to the supermarket of the 30p Freddo fame.
Oh wow!
And I'm going to get a baked potato with cheese and beans.
Wow, that sounds absolutely delicious.
Right, here's an interesting question. I might have asked you this before, so bear with me.
Okay.
And this is a fantastic way to bookend a podcast in which we talk about, the metaphorical implications of a Bible story being retold with an AI. It's a fantastic way to end this. Do you call it a baked potato or a jacket potato? Because I have very strong opinions on this. I don't have very strong opinions on many things, but I have very strong opinions on this.
Okay, well, I call it a baked potato.
Correct. That is correct.
But I have heard people call it a jacket potato before.
And I believe that they are all wrong.
Why?
Because, right, a jacket potato is a very specifically prepared type of potato, which almost always, when you get a baked potato from somewhere, it is not a jacket potato. And I'm not saying that jacket potatoes are better or worse than baked potatoes, they're just different. Jacket potatoes are cooked within tinfoil.
Okay.
So it's a potato and you put olive oil or butter or whatever on the outside, encapsulate it in tinfoil, then put it in the oven.
Okay.
And that's a jacket potato, I think. And then a baked potato is a baked potato that you've encapsulated in olive oil, then put on a baking tray and put in the oven. And that is a potato that has been baked. Therefore, it is a baked potato.
Wow.
Whereas I would say a jacket potato is also a potato that has been baked. But it's a potato that has been baked. So it is like a subset of the baked potato species.
Yeah. This species?
Like I say, I have very strong opinions about potatoes. I don't know, maybe I stepped overboard with baked potato species, but
you sound like David Attenborough. And the jacket potato is roaming around the baking tray, fighting
and
the
this is a
baked
subject
potato.
of contention in amongst many biologists, and I believe that a jacket potato is a subset of the baked potato species.
I mean, it just sounds like a more advanced version of Philip.
Oh my God, it does.
This is something that Philip would say.
It
What?
really is.
What do you think about this phenomenon, Philip? Well, I think that you've made a couple of good points there, but all the potatoes, right? Potatoes are the apples of the earth, right? And because they're the apples of the earth, how many apples have I had today? I can't actually. I can't actually remember.
It is a
how many
Philip
apples.
point. You're completely right.
I mean, it just goes on and on until you've trapped yourself in a logical box.
So I think we have completely destroyed our brains talking about Ex Machina and all the philosophical ramifications of making a weird AI in a cabin in the woods when you've got more money than anybody else in the world.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody that's listening to this, you're very welcome. Next time we're going to be talking about something else. It might be a different film, might be a different book, might be a different music album, as I've heard the kids call it. So that might be it.
The kids. Oh my god.
The kids. Yeah.
You just listen. You just stick to your jacket potatoes, right? I mean, don't trouble yourself with these outer worldly concepts like music albums.
I'll remember that then. Okay, so where can people find you, Danny? Your Instagram is.
My Instagram is Ohiram, which is spelled OHIRUM.
Thank you very much. It's a very difficult word to spell. I struggle with it every day.
Yeah.
Twitter and Facebook and stuff?
It's like Care Daniel Care. No.
If you Google Daniel Kerr, it'll come up eventually.
No, I'll tell you it right this set. It's Kerso 2000.
Okay,
which
lovely
is spelled
stuff.
KERSO 2000.
That's fantastic, Danny. I am on Instagram as Lewis_Brindley, I think.
How do you spell that?
You know what? I don't even know myself. My Twitter is at LewisBrindley4, the number 4. You should be able to find this podcast anyway, wherever good podcasts are found, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, things like that. Please consider donating. Please consider pledging. Please consider sharing this with your friends and your family and your dog and your cat.
Don't forget,
it will help us out greatly.
Don't forget that gerbil, Lewis. Come on now.
Yeah, you've got to share it with the gerbil.
Cover all the bases, okay?
The gerbil's very important.
Oh, thanks for listening, everyone. We've really enjoyed this.
Thank you for listening. Hopefully we'll be back in the future with more of these.
Brilliant.